may have noticed that the third wave from GrooveSynthesis has had an MPE upgrade. So while I've got the ROLI in front of me, what better keyboard to use to demonstrate it? So the first thing you're obviously going to have to do is let your third wave know it's in MPE mode. If we go to global, spin all the way down, just past the MIDI settings, and we get to MIDI MPE mode, on or off. So we want it on. And then the next thing you need to do is tell it what you're going to modulate. So if we come into the modulation matrix, and if we look at the top modulation there, I've got MPE Y-axis, which is this, is modulating the low pass filter. So if I just turn that down, for example, it's not doing anything. And now it is. And the beauty of MPE, if you've never used anything that uses MPE before, is that you can do stuff like this. So that's getting brighter. And this is getting duller. So you've got independent control of the filter in this case over every key. I'm just looking at one axis of freedom we've got there, and if we look at the ROLI dashboard here, we can see we've got 5 dimensions of control: velocity, the glide, slide, pressure, and lift. I've actually got velocity turned off on this. If you come into envelope and miscellaneous, velocity is on 0. So looking at the dashboard again, we've got all sorts of control over that. In fact, if I just whack it all the way up, it's essentially off again. So you can control a lot of this on the synth itself, but if you want to get even more fine control in the software, you can change the sensitivity and sort of affect almost like the calibration of it. Let's add another dimension then, shall we? Let's add pressure. So let's turn it on in there. There we go, you can hear what's set up there. As I increase the pressure, I'm increasing the LFO. And you've got to think about how you do it on the synth itself, because if we come into the mod matrix, for example, I've set up LFO1 to modulate the low pass cutoff, but I've got it set on 0 because I don't want it to do anything until I've got the pressure on. So scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then we've got pressure LFO1 amount. So LFO1 amount doesn't change until I add pressure on the keyboard. And if we go into LFO1 itself, I've got the amount set to 0 there because I always want it on 0 unless I'm adding pressure. So back into the modulation matrix. If I turn that down to 0, we won't get anything. Turn it up. So it's a case of balancing what you want your minimums and your maximums to be on the synth. And then in this software, we adjust the sensitivity really. So what's happening between the minimum and the maximum. Lift is the release velocity, and I don't think we can set that up on the third wave. If we go into the main modulation routines or sources, we've got the oscillators, the VCAs, the LFOs, and the only, let me just double check before I say this, the only MPE additional one we have is the slide. We do have control over the MPE Y-axis if we come into miscellaneous. So this is pair patch. We've got unipolar or bipolar. So we're always going to get it increasing as we slide up the key. But if we've got it on bipolar, for example, the center is where you've set it here on the synth itself. So you're going above that and then below that, whereas if you've got it on, so let's actually turn it really high. So this, when I hit this, is going to be, whoops, whatever that's set at, which is 95. Then it comes below 95. Whereas if I have it on unipolar, let's come back into miscellaneous. 95 is now here at the bottom. And then we go up from 95. So it depends how you want to use your tone. I've been enjoying this one from there. Because I want to build, I don't want to drop, so. I've already got pitch, obviously. But now it's independent per note. So MIDI MPE is sending up to 16 different channels or 15 different channels. Each key you press sends its own information across a different channel, which is why you have to tell the synth it's playing or it's receiving MPE. So you can hear there that the lower notes aren't changing pitch. But the top one is. Obviously velocity is always independent per note, but from a pitch perspective we've also got another little setting. Look at that, that's cool. And we've got a setting here, and again per patch. We come down to MPE voice pitch bend range. It's at 4 octaves at the minute, so change that. Or 8 octaves, or just down to 2 octaves. So yeah, we've got control of the amount of pitch bend and the amount of slide. So we can turn the slide off. And the amount of pressure. But we've also got this little touchpad down here. Now if we click on that button, just showing you what the ROLI does while I'm at it, is we've got 3 MIDI controllers and a touchpad. And if we look down here on the ROLI dashboard, this is where we set the MIDI outputs for each of those sliders, and again, for the X and Y axis. But that's not MPE, that's for the whole synth, which just means that you can control an awful lot with one keyboard, and you can just get really nice, expressive stuff from it. I do like that little track. You just can't do stuff like that without MPE. So if you are thinking about getting the desktop version, do check out the ROLI. It's well worth it. In fact, the desktop version and the ROLI will cost you less than the keyboard version of the third wave. But it does mean that you can really access the new MPE capabilities of it. I know that was just a short little video, but I hope you found it useful or interesting. And if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join in Patreon, go to MastarskyCar.com website and buy stuff for me. It all helps to support the channel. Anyway, I will see you next time.